Now I would like to spend some time talking about individual food habits. Of course, personal preferences are influenced by food availability first and foremost. Your text mentions the example that those living in the cool climate of Northern Europe are not going to establish rice as a core food. Personal choices also identify what is acceptable. For example, we Americans may not consider dog meat to be edible, but over in China it is commonly eaten. Basically, the word diet is what a culture regards as what can be eaten and what cannot or should not be eaten. The consumer food choice model includes many interrelated factors influencing how and why an individual makes a food selection at any given time. Taste is, of course, an important consideration as well as cost, convenience, self-expression, self-identity, gender, advertising, life stage, state of health, and variety. As mentioned, food availability influences food choice first and foremost. Availability is, of course, determined by several things, a few of which include local ecological considerations, geographical features, indigenous vegetation, the native animal population, human manipulation of these resources, seasonal variations, and climate. Political, economic, and social management of food at the local level also has an impact. In many countries, governmental mismanagement or corruption causes its citizens to go hungry. This is currently the case in India, where more grain is stockpiled than in any other country except for China, yet 1/5 of the people are malnourished, while improperly stored grain goes to waste every single day. Edibility also influences food choice. We all tend to categorize foods according to their edibility. Some foods may be considered edible by animals, but not by me. In some cultures, corn and oats are considered to be animal food only, while most cultures, although not all, typically consider insects to be edible by animals only. Other foods may be thought of as edible by humans, but not by my kind. Dog meat or monkey brains fit into this category. Still, other foods are considered edible by humans, but not by me. For example, you may respect that your grandparents like to eat liver and onions, but you would never consider joining them for dinner that night. And then, of course, there are the foods that you prefer and think of as edible by me. The concern that food selection is primarily motivated by taste. This includes color, aroma, flavor, and texture. You may be surprised that I mentioned color here, but if something is a strange color, we may automatically reject it, thinking that it couldn't possibly taste good. The human tongue has receptors for many different flavors. Area number 1 is the location of the bitter receptors. Number 2 is where the sour receptors are. Number 3 is salty, and number 4 is sweet. Umami is another taste and literally means savory, such as in the taste of meats. In general, most people have a predisposition for flavors from sugars and fats, and bitter tastes are usually associated with toxic compounds. After taste, cost is probably the most influential factor in food choice. Income level is, of course, a huge consideration in this regard. In poorer societies, price is even more important than taste, while in wealthier societies, food choices change all the time. The local dietary domain is one thing that affects prices. A subsistence farmer will have more access to food than someone who makes the same amount of money but lives in the city. For those with very limited incomes, even making small changes in diet, such as switching from white bread to whole wheat bread, can make food costs prohibitively expensive for some. There are also the other factors mentioned in the consumer food choice model. Convenience is especially important in urban societies. Self-expression may also be a factor, as well as cultural, religious, and regional activities such as Mardi Gras. Food choice may also be a form of self-identity, as in the case of the vegetarian, gourmet food lover, or even the junk food junkie. Physical and spiritual well-being also come into play. In most cultures, children are not allowed to consume all of the same beverages as adults. Drinks like coffee or alcohol are best reserved for those who are older. People who have been diagnosed with certain diseases may also abstain from particular foods in an effort to halt or slow their disease, such as taking saturated fat out of the diet when diagnosed with heart disease or high cholesterol levels. Variety is another big factor in food choice. We humans are motivated psychologically to try new foods. We just like to change it up sometimes.